Hello, everyone. We'll get started in just a second. I see a lot of folks are starting to come in now. We're going to get started in one more minute. I know that someone texted me, excuse me, and told me they were running a bit late. So I was just trying to see if they could get into the meeting. If not, we can go ahead and start. Okay, great. Excuse me. Again, my name is Cicely Harris. I am the chair of Community Board 10 and the interim chair of Transportation and Landmarks. Welcome to our October meeting. I apologize for my lighting. I usually try to get it all set up, but tonight it's not working out. I've had all kinds of technology issues all day. So I'm just happy to even be on the Zoom and working. So I'm glad to see everyone here. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is now 6:35 p.m. I think if we could do, I don't know if we have quorum yet. So we'll just go ahead and do the agenda as written, and then we can adopt the agenda once we do have quorum. I see a couple of phone numbers on here. I don't know if those are board members or some of our general public, but just to start off, we're going to go ahead and if I could have some of the board members unmute and say hello. And this is in no particular order. I'm just doing it as I see folks. So Kevin, I see you. So if you could.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Bitterman, and I serve as Assistant Secretary of the Board and Vice Chair of Land Use. I'm not on this particular committee, but I'm happy to be here this evening.
Thank you. I see Dr. Cheryl Smith.
Hi, hello everyone. This is Cheryl Smith. I am on Health and EchoDeaf Committee. Nice to join the meeting tonight.
Thank you. I just saw Karen Ori come on. I don't know if you're able to speak, Karen.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Ori. I'm Chair of Parks and Recreation, and I'm also a member of this committee.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
LaShonda.
Hello, everyone. LaShonda Myers. I am a member of Community Board 10 and also of Transportation.
Thank you, LaShonda. Tiffany.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tiffany Reeves. I'm a member of this committee and also Arts and Cultures. Great to be here.
Thank you, Tiffany. I see Marcus.
Good evening, everyone. This is Marcus Wilson. I'm a member of this committee as well as Parks and Recreation.
Thank you. I believe that's all the board members. I know Vice Chair Keith Taylor said he might be on tonight. So I don't know if one of the phone numbers is his. If it is, if he could unmute, that would be great because he's going to be talking tonight. So hopefully we'll be able to hear from him. If that's all the board members, if we could have some of our guests unmute. Karen Taylor.
Hi there, everyone. My name, as she said, is Karen Taylor, and I am the founder and executive director of While We Are Still Here, which is a Harlem-based heritage preservation organization. And we've been around since 2015, and we were initially organized around the histories of 409 and 555 Edgecombe Avenue, but we expanded that to include all of Harlem. And today I'm here to talk about a project that we have coming up in terms of heritage signage.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Jennifer St. Anna's.
Thanks, Cicely. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jennifer Santinez. I'm here with the Department of Transportation. I'm the Manhattan Deputy Borough Commissioner, and I'm joined by a few of my colleagues. I'll let them introduce themselves, and we're here to present on a commercial cargo bike pilot.
Thank you, Jennifer. One of our strong supporters from DOT. Thanks for seeing you again, Jennifer. Are there any colleagues that are with Jennifer? If you could unmute, I don't know who y'all are, but if you could unmute and just say hello.
Sure. Hi, I'm Eugenia Tang. I'm Project Manager for Freight Mobility in DOT. So I'll be presenting to you about the Commercial Cargo Bicycle Pilot Program and how we can better improve the operations.
Okay.
I'm Jeremy Saffron. I'm the Deputy Director of Freight at DOT, and I'm here with Eugenia to present the cargo bike pilot corral that we're looking at.
Thank you, Jeremy. If that's all of Jennifer's colleagues, then we'll move on. John Lynch, past board member.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm John Lynch, here representing the Frederick Douglass Boulevard Alliance, which is presently the sponsor of an open street program on Frederick Douglass.
Thank you, John. Sherry Gold. I don't know if that's our-
Hi, I'm Sherry Gold, also with DOT. Sorry for not jumping in
That's
after
okay.
Jeremy. I'm from the Public Space Unit, here to also support and answer any questions related to the cargo bike corral proposal.
Thank you, Sherry. I believe it was, I think Marissa Yanni. I can't see the full name.
Hi,
Marissa?
Marissa Yanni, I'm the Manhattan Liaison from Community Affairs for the Department of Sanitation.
Thank you, Marissa. Javier. That's our captionist tonight. So thanks, Javier. I hope the captioning is working. Thanks for everything that you're doing.
You're welcome. Captioning is working fine.
Thank you. Isaiah from the mayor's office.
Hi, thanks, Cicely. Good evening, everybody. Isaiah Jenkins, Manhattan Borough Director from the Mayor's Office.
Thank you, Isaiah. And I see Maurice's iPhone, but we're not exactly sure. Maurice?
Hello, how you doing, Miss Cicely? I'm just Maurice Taylor, Harlem resident, a criminal justice student, Hostos Community College. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Maurice, for joining us. And I see Deneen Brown, Black Men board member. If you could just say hello.
Hi, everybody.
That is Deneen. She is a longtime board member and our chair of personnel. Thank you, Deneen, for coming out. And there's two other numbers, one ending 632, beginning 646, ending 632. If you wanted to unmute and say anything, if not, that's fine too. And 347, ending 176. You can unmute and say a few words if you would like to introduce yourself. If not, that's fine. Okay, going on that. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Oh, and Donna Gill, I saw that. Sorry, the PSC New Caucus, Donna Gill.
Hi, it's Donna Gill, board member, just joining. I'm trying to change my picture, but it's not working, but I'm here. Okay.
Thank you, Donna. Yes, thank you. Oh, and one last board member, Barbara Nelson. I guess you're gonna wave at us. Good to see you. Okay, good. If any time throughout the meeting, Barbara, you know you can unmute and say anything you need to say. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and get started. I think first on our agenda was hearing from Open Streets, Open Restaurants, FTBA. So that is John Lynch.
Good evening again. So as I mentioned, FDBA is the sponsor of an open street program under the auspices of New York City and the Department of Transportation. I guess it's been since around, maybe around Labor Day until now. And at this point, the program started with a cutoff date or an end date of October 31st. Recently, New York City announced that they were going to make the open streets and the open dining project, which is something slightly different, but make them year round. And I think even today there was a city council hearing on certain aspects of that. That being said, I'm pretty sure that we are not going to look to continue the program beyond the current October 31st deadline. Just in light of weather considerations and other considerations, we would probably cut off at the end of October and then look to pick up again sometime in the spring. Apparently the open dining program will also be extended year round. So the difference being open dining is where restaurants are permitted to have seats on the sidewalk by their restaurant, leaving an 8-foot passageway for pedestrians. And also they're allowed to have sort of permanent structures built in the parking lane in front of their restaurant. So that's a different concept. That's going to also continue year round, I understand. But that sort of has nothing to do with FDBA's program, which was the Open Streets program, which allowed restaurants to expand even further into the street with non-permanent seating on Friday evenings and weekends. So that's the current status. I mean, we believe our current Open Street program has been a great success. The restaurants have benefited quite a bit. I don't know that we've had any significant problems that I'm aware of, but I think it's been a rousing success, and we hope to pick it up again in the spring.
I have a question. I think Cicely dropped off the call. Maybe she's having some technical difficulties on her end. But if you guys are not going to renew the application after October 31st, how does that work with DOT as far as the street closures? Would the street still be closed on Friday night on through to the weekends?
No, the street would not be closed. So the open streets is effectively what closes the streets.
Right.
So if we're not going to participate in open streets, then the streets would not be closed. Okay. As far as the actual procedure for sort of taking a break and picking up in the spring, I had asked someone at DOT about that, and I was told that there will be some kind of procedures laid out for how one would kind of pick it up in the spring, and I guess we'll hear about that tonight, hopefully.
Hi, John. This is sorry. Hi, John. This is Cheryl.
Hey, Cheryl.
Great to see you.
Good to
So
see you.
I have a question because we have an open street on 120th between Mount Morris Park and Malcolm X as well. How is it that the open street, are you closing the streets yourself? Because I actually happened to be walking on Frederick Douglass Boulevard over the weekend, and it was very, on some of the streets, it seemed like it was open, and other streets it was closed. So it doesn't seem, maybe it was early on because it was around 12:30, that it was not consistent across all of the streets.
Okay. So by 12:30, it should all be set up. Our program runs from 112th Street to 120th Street, but there is a carve out. The block between 117th and 118th is not part of it because for two reasons, because there's a senior center there. And also that there are no restaurants there. So we asked DOT if we can carve that out. So that street remains open. The rest of them should have been blocked. Again, it's only the avenue. It's not the streets themselves, not the cross streets. And, we would like to have more barriers. That was a bit of a problem getting barriers from NYPD. So some streets are barriered a little bit better than others. Hopefully in the spring we can kind of have more robust barriers and signage and different things.
Okay, well that's helpful to me. So so there is one street in that is a break. So
Right,
that was the street actually. That was the street that there was actually nothing there. But who actually closes the street? Do you close the street, or the restaurants close the street? Who's doing that?
Well, a little bit of both. So FDBA is responsible. I literally drag barriers back and forth every weekend. We encourage and try to require the restaurants on their particular blocks to take care of their corners, and many of them do. But for example, down by 112th Street, there's not much there. 120th Street, even though Chocolatte's been sort of participating, we definitely do it ourselves there. But Vinataria, Lido, Harlem Tavern, Boulevard, Row House, they all Melba's. I think they pretty much put out their own barriers, but we always go through and check and make sure it's all. And we've also had a couple of paid interns that have been working with us for the past several weekends, and that they've been very helpful.
And then that gets to my other question, and I'll let Kevin go. So are you, how are you dealing with the issue of social distancing, specifically around this? Because I know that on 116th Street, especially with Harlem Tavern, there does seem to be a little bit of collection in terms of people gathering, at least even at the time that I went fairly early on I think it was Sunday, Saturday.
Well, you know, we've obviously, you know, advised all the restaurants of what they should be doing. I mean, that question sort of overlaps a lot of jurisdictions. I know there's someone from DOT who comes on site every weekend, and she texts me every day.
Christine. Yeah, Christine does that. Yeah.
And SLA, of course, has a big, you know, they have 400 people allegedly out looking at all these things. DOT, I think, has inspectors. So, you know, I mean, you know, we honestly, you know, we probably have the, you know, least resources and least authority, because we can certainly tell people, and we've had a couple of problems. There was one restaurant in particular we talked to again and again and again, and I've spoken to DOT about them, you know, but at the end of the day, it's, other than begging, you know, we've warned them that, you know, maybe they'll lose their license, maybe the SLA will come by, maybe they'll lose their ability to participate if DOT is unhappy. But aside from talk, there's not much else that we've been able to do.
Sorry. I'm going to let you go, Kevin. I'm sorry. One other quick question is the fact that, do you have any specific programming for your block, for the blocks in terms of a continuum?
I'm sorry, I don't understand that.
Do you have any programming on the street itself?
Programming meaning activity other than restaurants?
Correct.
No, we tried to talk about that, and in conjunction with the board, we worked with, I know Chanel was involved very much at the beginning, and Cicely. We had requested that we be allowed to have tabling by organizations, by, you know, voter registration, NAACP, Arbor Rice from Urban League, and several others. We brought them to the walkthrough, but we were told at that time, that's what I get, I don't know if it's ironically, but DOT said we wouldn't be allowed to do anything with anything other than restaurants because of the social distancing issue. And again, that was a few months ago, but the idea was that they didn't want to turn it into a big sort of street fair. But we had hoped to do that, and I've heard a little bit that maybe those restrictions will be relaxed going forward. But I know First Corinthians Baptist Church wanted to do voter registration. I told them, you know, please go do it, but just know that, you know, we can't authorize you to do it, and, you know, but we were happy for them to do it. You know, there've been a couple of other things that we, you know, it's fine with us, but we were told that officially it wasn't permitted.
Thanks, Cheryl. Kevin, you had a question. I believe Karen had a question after you. So,
yeah,
Kevin.
Thank you. First question. It seems to me that with the streets closed, there's still parking along Frederick Douglass Boulevard, and is that allowable? And is that creating any problems? In the evenings, I'm still seeing at least on my block, a lot of cars that are parked. I'm just curious about what prevents somebody from pulling in and parking and leaving if it's in fact a closed open street.
We put signs up. I don't know if they've been as robust lately, but certainly we try to put up signs, no parking signs. The barriers cannot block cars. In fact, we're not allowed, we have to leave an emergency lane open. So we have to allow, a fast moving vehicle to come through there. So yes, cars physically can come in and out. We talked to NYPD about that, and we talked to DOT about it. We were told that NYPD chose not to enforce the no parking for open streets. And again, if someone here knows something different, but that's what we were told at the beginning. So it really is just, we put the signs up, and we kind of, when people come by, we tell them, if they ask questions, hey, is it closed? What's the story? We tell them that they're not supposed to park.
And from my observation, it hasn't created a problem, but I have wondered if it's creating any issues. And, there are a couple of blocks where there's a lot more, tables and people in the street. And I just wonder if that has created any aggression, or there's been any, thumping on the roofs of cars.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
We may try thumping next week. That's a good idea.
I do have some other questions. There are less so about the Open Streets program, but about the bump outs on Frederick Douglass Boulevard. I don't want to direct those to Frederick Douglass Boulevard. Alliance if that's not appropriate, because I think that's a larger city conversation.
You mean the parking lane?
Yeah, the extended seating that goes into the parking lanes. Is that something we can discuss here now or not?
Go ahead, Kevin,
I'm
if
happy
you have a
to.
question.
And John, again, if this isn't really under your purview, I think I'm sharing it as just an observation. And it's not true of every location on Frederick Douglass Boulevard, but we are seeing certain locations where there's an accumulation of trash that builds up over multiple days. I've heard reported from some residential security cameras where they're seeing, the spot where a restaurant would traditionally put their trash is now where their guests are seating, and so they're putting it into other people's locations. And it's not always on days of commercial trash pickup, but they're actually seeing this on video footage. So with these bump outs, I am seeing a buildup of trash in certain locations. And two, after the rain that we had yesterday, on my walk this morning, I noticed several areas where the water flow can no longer traverse the seat outs. And so there's flooding that's happening between these seated islands. In the architecture of these design spaces, they forgot to put a plumbing irrigation system. And I do worry about that as we head into the winter months, as slush and rain accumulates and it doesn't drain into drains. Just there's deep areas of water building up, and I just wonder what can be communicated to the restaurants about needing to remedy that. And again, I'm sure this is happening across the city, but those are my comments.
Well, all I'll quickly say is that if there are particular restaurants in the FDBA program that you know about, we're happy to hear about it and say something if it's appropriate. But yes, that is clearly not even just a Frederick Douglass issue or even a Harlem issue, but obviously a citywide issue. So I'll defer to the DOT folks about that.
Sure, thanks, John. Kevin, if there are specific locations where you are seeing the ponding, I think it would be extraordinarily helpful for you and the board to compile those, take pictures, and send those over to the DOT team just so we can start to take a look. I haven't heard from anyone today, but I do know yesterday it rained all day. So any photos that you can share would be helpful.
Great, noted. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen and then Donna Gill.
Yes, I just wanted to ask, in going forward and as this situation endures, what do you think you could do to improve community buy-in, or if you even think that that's has been an issue?
Karen, I apologize. Was that directed to me?
Yes, I'm sorry, John, to you. Yes.
I'm sorry, could you just repeat it? I was distracted for a moment. I apologize.
I just wanted to know if you felt you had community buy-in, and if not, how do you think you could improve that? For instance, getting more of the community to come out and support. Just in going forward, how do you think you could improve that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, certainly, I mean, DOT required us to do a fair amount of outreach. We did that through our email list, through putting posters in lobbies and giving it to various building associations that we know about. We did a petition drive, so we got signatures from folks. But that's what we did on the FDBA block itself. We certainly didn't hear any negative feedback as a result of that outreach, other than the senior center on 117th and 118th raising a question about, hey, what's gonna, we need this street open, and I immediately said, yeah, that's fine. We can do that. This all happened fairly quickly, so there's a lot of things that we're looking at next year. We hope to frankly get restaurants to start paying more dues to us. We hope to raise some more money. We hope to have better signage. We hope to have better barriers. We hope to have better outreach. There's a lot that we will, sort of tweak and improve upon. But we did, we did walkthroughs. We spoke to every business, not even just restaurants. We had people walking through, talking to all the businesses. And, obviously it's hard to talk to all the residents, but we did put posters in the various buildings.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And John, just so you know, when you all do open next year, spring, please let the community board know what we can do to try to engage more people, not just Frederick Douglass Boulevard, but Harlem as a whole, so that people will know what's going on, know the bus routes, and feel, I guess, comfortable about coming in, and just get the word out that we are shutting the street down for, for us to enjoy it, but also to really support our businesses on that restaurant road that we have. So we'll definitely, try to help out as much as we can in the spring. And even before, if we want to start talking about it come December.
Yeah, no, we plan to plan this, tomorrow.
Thank you. Yes, we want to be involved.
No, not literally, but close
no.
to it.
I mean, I hope not. But yes, when you do start having those conversations, make sure we want to be involved and help out as much as we can. Donna, I think you had a question.
I do. John,
Yes, Donna.
Yeah, how are you? It's good to see you.
I don't see you, but I hear you.
I know.
There you are.
I was concerned about enforcement, because from what I understand that you said, the 28th is not really being very cooperative about enforcing the streets. And I happened to be out there on Saturday, and these people with motorized bikes were riding down the streets. And I'm thinking, wait a second, people are walking, there's elderly people, no one is stopping them. I know cars cannot go through, but things like motorized bikes and just bikes in general, is there any thought about enforcing the fact that it needs to be just for walking more so than, things like that? That's my question.
Well, the point I made before was that NYPD was not enforcing the no parking rules.
Okay.
Now, whether, and we've had conference calls with them. I mean, they know that this is going on. We begged them for more barriers at the beginning, and they weren't really helpful, but they did end up giving us some more. I don't know what their view is of that kind of enforcement. I feel like every weekend I tend to see police cars sort of at different ends. I don't know if they're there because of open streets or for other reasons. Like I said, we're not allowed to create an impermeable barrier, because we're required to keep at least 15 feet in the middle open. So again, in theory, a fire engine, ambulance should be able to just sort of drive through unimpeded. That obviously means that a motorbike could drive through unimpeded, and a bicycle. And I'm probably less concerned about the bicycles than I would be about the motor scooters. So, I don't, that's something we can certainly raise in our continuing discussions with NYPD. I don't know what their reaction would be to asking them to ban motorbikes from FDB. That would be nice. Then they can do it throughout all of Harlem.
Well, motorized bicycles as well, not just motorbikes, because the bicycles are motorized right now, and everybody's sort of on those, and those can go pretty fast. So you can't really get out of the way as quickly. So that was my concern, because being out there, walking in the streets, and, and actually there was a car that was driving through there, and I'm like, why are you driving through? Don't you see the barrier? So, I mean, I didn't feel like being the police and saying you're not supposed to drive through here. And I didn't know how the motorists would take it. So that was just my concern with, enforcement.
I mean, my assumption, I'm not aware of any additional NYPD presence or interest. Again, DOT is here on this call, and they have, nearly 100 open street programs that they've been dealing with. So I don't know if they have any insight on this issue that you're talking about as far as traffic and motorbikes, or enforcing the, the no car ban at all.
Can I just say, this is Cheryl, and I'll second that in the sense that on 120th Street, the biggest issue has been the motorized bicycles. that are moving. I didn't realize that we had such we had so many motorized bicycles, electronic bicycles that are going, it seems like 50 miles an hour when they're trying to get to the delivery. That's been a huge problem.
Yeah, you know, when Donna raised it, I admit at first I thought you were talking about the motorbikes, the non-commercial motorbike people.
Hey, Cicely, I just want to jump in real quick. So we were having community stakeholder meetings with the elected official offices. A few issues came up, and that's why we reached out to the mayor's office, Department of Sanitation, as well as DOT to answer any of the constituent issues. A few people who are on that call, they said they were going to be on the call tonight. I don't see that they're on the call, so I just wanted to ask a couple of their questions that I remember from the meeting. So the first one was around Department of Sanitation. People felt that because there were, more foot traffic and open restaurants, open streets was in effect, that maybe Department of Sanitation would consider putting more baskets due to more foot traffic. When I reached out to the agency, the response was that there was no plans to put more baskets on Frederick Douglass Boulevard. So I just wanted to know if Marissa could speak to that at all.
Yeah, hey, thank you, Shatik. So at the moment, there are no plans to put more litter baskets, but if you send me in an email, Shatik, specific locations on Frederick Douglass or anywhere in the district, then I'll send that over to our Bureau of Collection and Cleaning, and then we'll send an investigator, we'll send a supervisor out there just to take a look at the area and see if it is warranted. It has to meet certain requirements for any litter basket, specifically has to be in a commercial strip, which I think this will fit the bill. If you can just email those to me, that would be really helpful, and then I can send it over and we'll investigate.
No problem. Thank you, Marissa.
And, can I just jump in quickly? Now, the baskets that you would put in, are they just the regular baskets that allow rats to jump in and out, or baskets that have the covers?
It would be the regular mesh.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, the not so great for rats. Yeah. Well, the fun ones for rats, I would say. Yeah. I'll have to see about other ones. For any of the bigger ones and the fancier ones, they have to be paid for with extra funding. So I don't know, that's a different kind of conversation. But if you want just the regular mesh wire, green ones, those we can easily get.
So if I may, and I know Barbara Nelson, I think, wanted to say something too, but just on this point, if I may, I'm happy to volunteer to do a walk along the boulevard again this weekend. I do it every weekend. And, these wire mesh baskets are, prominently placed, but the reality is come Saturday morning, definitely by Sunday, they're filled with coffee cups and sandwich wrappers and boxes and other, illegal dumping trash that happens along the corridor. So, I think we've seen, as the boulevard has flourished in its opening of restaurants, and it's an exciting place to be and to walk, but the infrastructure to support the activity on the street has not kept pace with, even the reopening. So I'm happy to take on a little photographic journey and to document some of the things that I see, because what happens is those litter boxes overflow and they sit. Yes, the rats are crawling in as they do other places in the city, but we're also seeing, we have rat burrows in the tree beds all along Frederick Douglass Boulevard because of the trash that's sitting there for extended periods of time from the commercial properties. So it's a systemic issue on the street. There's a lot of food sources and there's a lot of uncovered trash containers. So I know it's not a new issue for us to be discussing. And again, this isn't my committee, but as we're heading into the district needs period and our budget allocations, this will not be the first time, I imagine, Community Board 10 puts in specific requests for sanitation, not only along Frederick Douglass Boulevard, but the 125th Street corridor as well. So, I think that that's true. It's been an issue. And, it's something that we really need to get some solutions around.
So, yes, I was trying to jump in earlier. John, hi, long time no see.
Hey, Barbara.
So, the question that I have is, I heard you say that at a certain point, sometime, I think you said October 31st, that your alliance was going to not kind of go through the extended period of time that's been allotted. One of my questions about the whole process, not so much in the area down where the corridors closed for the streets, but a lot of the restaurants that have opened up, they're not always in business, right? So if they're only open on the weekend when they make, during the brunch hours, when for some of them, there's one particularly up here near me, and there's no, as I heard mentioned earlier, they're not wearing masks. I know that we're not the people police, but my concern is what part of that process, I don't know what their application consisted of in terms of when they'll be opening. So now you're saying that some will be closing. Is there any way that there'll be a list or something forwarded so we'll know which ones are no longer part of the street, open streets, and which ones will be?
Yeah, I think that's totally doable. It's a little bit of a gray area because you have, again, the open dining and the open streets. So open dining permitted restaurants to go into the sidewalk and parking lane. And again, that has nothing to do with open streets, nothing to do with FDBA, technically.
In theory, yeah.
The open streets allowed them to go further out, another 17 feet or something into the street. So there are, and each restaurant, once FDBA got sort of authority to be the sponsor, each restaurant had to put in their own individual application for the extended open streets, the weekend program. I mean, I technically don't know which restaurants did or didn't. I know that there are some restaurants that appear to not have ever extended into the street, but yet they have their parking lane, parking, and they're all part of the overall experience of no traffic and all. And I'm fine with that. So to answer your question, yeah, I mean, we're happy to certainly provide the information of which restaurants are actually doing open streets into the street and which ones aren't. I mean, I could sort of tell you off the top of my head which one are.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I kind of consider it all one, even though, half of my answer is saying, hey, we have nothing to do with that and we have no authority. But, the other half is like, yeah, I feel like they're all benefiting and all part of the fact that it's a, pedestrian mall or open street, however you want to think of it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, Barbara.
Thank you. Jennifer, I wanted to wrap back around with what you were going to say about the enforcement. If you had, like the question that was earlier, if you had anything to add about the motorbike enforcement or anything that you had seen in other boroughs or other open streets.
Sure. And so I just wanted to clarify, we are talking about e-bikes as opposed to motorcycles. Is that correct?
Yes, electric bikes. Donna, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. And so it sounds like the e-bikes are still traversing, through the open street corridor, which is not permitted, right? These are closed streets. Those lanes are only open, as John said, for, emergency vehicles and that type of purpose. We have heard this type of complaint along some of the corridors, but if there are, we'd like to take a look sometime. We have a commercial bike unit. Let me just turn that sound off. I apologize. We do have a commercial bike unit that can help us with, education and reaching out to certain businesses that utilize those e-bikes, but we do have trouble, it's really difficult to kind of identify if they are located on the corridor, if they're just traveling through the corridor. If you see a tag on the e-bike, that's something that could help, like if it's Seamless or Grubhub, that's something that we could also look into. But, unfortunately, this is kind of a citywide issue. If there are certain blocks along the corridor where you're seeing more of this issue, we can reach out to some of our sister agencies to see how we could kind of like have conversations with these folks or, try to kind of cramp down on that. It's not, I don't think it's the answer that you want, but, it is something that we're aware of, and, it's a difficult one to kind of, there's no silver bullet here.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks. Shatik, did you have anything else from our community meeting?
I think that was it, only because NYPD isn't on the call, and I guess they would be the agency that deals with the enforcement with parking. I did bring it to the attention of Lyle. I don't know if he forwarded it to you, Jennifer, but just to put it on record. So what happens is once the street closes down on Frederick Douglass Boulevard, all of the cars that would have parked there on the weekend nights and the days, they're then forced to park on other avenues. And the avenues that they park on are one specifically is Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard along the median. So some of the complaints were, they wanted lax enforcement on the parking, and they just wanted to make sure that if the cars were on the median, that they wouldn't be towed or they wouldn't be issued violations. But I guess that's more of an NYPD issue than it is a DOT. So I'll address that issue with the 28th precinct.
Absolutely. And Shatik, Lyle did reach out to me before he was out of office, and we chatted a little bit, as John mentioned, in terms of parking enforcement, NYPD isn't, we're not relying on NYPD for parking enforcement for open streets and open streets restaurants. But, we can also try to reach out to the 28 as well as you to mention that there is kind of this displacement of passenger vehicles during the weekend hours.
Thank you. That's it for me, Cicely.
Thanks, Shatik. And I am so sorry that I forgot to introduce Shatik Mitchell, our wonderful, diligent district manager. Shatik, I apologize for that.
Oh, no problem.
So I believe that might be it for the conversation on FDBA open streets. Just one quick thing. Jennifer, have you seen any increased complaints about the M10? How's the M10 running? We love our M10 bus. So how is that running on the weekends, and how frequently, and where is it?
So the Manhattan DOT office hasn't received those types of complaints, but we can reach out to our MTA and Transit Authority colleagues to see if folks have been reaching out about the M10 rerouting.
Okay. Is it still on the Manhattan Avenue?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
They were invited to this meeting, MTA.
Yes. Okay. But we'll follow up with them if there's any other issues.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you. If there are no other questions about open streets, open restaurants, FDBA, we're going to move on. Thank you so much, John, for coming out. Definitely, we will continue to support FDBA and anything you guys are doing.
We'll continue to support you. It's good to see you all.
Good to see you too.
I might even hang out and listen a little more.
Okay, you're welcome. Like old times. Okay.
I can't vote, right?
No. That's okay. Yeah. So we're going to move on. Jennifer, I think you had another presentation, the freight bikes, cargo bikes. I'm sorry if I'm getting it wrong.
No, not a problem. Thanks, Cicely, and thanks everybody again for having DOT on for our presentation. So I know that you, Jenya and Jeremy, and Sherry introduced themselves earlier, but we're thankful to be here with the Transportation, Historic Preservation, and Landmarks Committee to present on DOT's commercial cargo bike pilot. And we're also looking to discuss a potential site location by the Whole Foods Market on 124th Street. And so I just want to mention that, I know that Lyle, Ed, and I have taken part in a number of different discussions with this committee about loading and parking around the block. So I just want to put that out there and mention that up front. Following our presentation, my colleagues and I will be on to answer any questions that you may have, and we're looking forward to hear what the board thinks about the proposal. So with that, I'd like to hand it off to Eugenia, who's going to share her screen and walk us through tonight's presentation.
Oh, sorry. Okay, great. Can everyone see this?
I see a blank screen, but it looks like you're screen sharing, Eugenia.
Oh, okay. It's just loading.
Okay, great.
Okay, good. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Eugenia Tang. I'm a project manager for the Freight Mobility Unit here at DOT, here to present to you about our commercial cargo bicycle pilot program and how.
Oh, Eugenia, sorry to stop the momentum here. I personally can't see the presentation at the moment. I don't know if anyone else is having that issue.
Oh, it's.
I cannot either. It's just buffering.
Yeah, neither. It's just a black screen.
A hack is if whoever's the host of this meeting can just share your screen, then stop, and then Eugenia should try again. I do this all the time in work Zooms.
Okay. Let's stop share. Okay. Let me just try. Oh, okay.
Okay, try it now.
Can you see it now?
No. Not yet.
Not yet. Let me see.
If you want, I mean, you can email the presentation to me. I can try it on my end if it, if it continues to give you issues.
What was the hack that someone suggested?
It's Tiff, Cicely. So Shatik, if you're sharing, if you're the host, Shatik, share your screen, share any screen right quick, then just exit out of it, and then she can try again. It might work. You know what I'm saying?
All right, give me 1 second.
Yeah, just share like any screen. Great, okay, so then you exit and then she should try again.
So it's the same issue, it's still the blank screen.
Yeah, we
I think I can send you the presentation in just a second. Thanks everyone for your patience here.
Is it small enough, a PDF?
Oh, right. Just making sure, Jeremy, I have this as a PDF, correct?
Okay. Eugenia, is that the latest version in PDF form?
I don't think so. Let me just. Jennifer, I'll send it to you.
Hey.
Great, thank you.
Sit down. Sorry.
Thanks, all will be up and running in just a sec, I hope.
Okay, sent. Sorry, I'm just gonna try it one more time since we're waiting.
Ah, I think that did the trick.
Yep, we see it.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
I was like,
all.
Sorry about that, everyone. Still good?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, starting off from the top. So my name is Eugenia Tang. I'm a project manager for the Freight Mobility Unit at DOT, here to present to you about our commercial cargo bicycle pilot program and how installing cargo bike corrals can help the pilot run more efficiently. This here is an image showing the cargo bikes operating out of the Whole Foods location in Lower East Side currently, using the space at the curb without a cargo bike corral. Just like this location, Whole Foods on West 125th Street is working to make the switch from using trucks, vans, and walkers to using cargo bikes for their local deliveries as a pilot participant. They can load, unload, and stage their deliveries at the curb, but having a dedicated space with the cargo bike corrals can help improve safety and efficiency of their operations. For this presentation, I'll start off by giving a background of the Commercial Cargo Bicycle Pilot Program, and then I'll go through the Bike Corral program and how it can improve the operations of Pilot with the new Cargo Bike Corral design. I'll talk more about this and our ideas of a potential installation site along with some next steps. So back in December of last year, we held a mayoral press event announcing the launch of the Commercial Cargo Bicycle Pilot Program. This pilot allows companies to partner with DOT in making the switch from using the typical trucks and vans to using these zero emissions cargo bicycles for a safer, more sustainable, and efficient way of delivering goods in dense neighborhoods. We launched the program with Amazon, DHL, and UPS with about 100 bikes at the time, and has since grown to now also have FedEx and Reeve Technology on board. So now we're looking at about 200 bikes that are operating in the pilot, and it's continuing to grow. So we had initially stated that this would be a 6-month pilot, but it's been extended. This program is managed by the Freight Mobility Unit in DOT, but we work very closely with NYPD, DOT's Parking Division, Commercial Bicycles Unit, and Safety Education's team to help run this pilot as smoothly as possible. Participants of the pilot are given 5 guidelines, which they had all agreed to follow. First is the vehicle specification. Participants are permitted to ride on bike lanes if it's no more than 4 feet wide, 10 feet in length, 16 if they have a attached trailer as shown in this image, and 7 feet in height. Any vehicles outside of these dimensions are still allowed to join the pilot, but they have to use the vehicle travel lanes. Parking on sidewalks are permitted only if Parking on the sidewalk is permitted only if the vehicle is under 3.5 feet wide, 10 feet long, and 4 feet tall. Proper equipment is also required for these cyclists, such as lights, a bell, and labeling of the businesses, and a unique bike ID for ease of identification. All cargo carried by the cargo bikes must be safely secured, so nothing can be hanging out. And operators are given a speed limit of 12 miles per hour, including using context-sensitive speeds in busy pedestrian areas, and are to wear safety vests and like helmet and a reflective vest at all times. Also, since the Hudson River and the East River Greenways are reserved for recreational use and has geometric constraints, participants are not allowed to use these 2 paths. Participants of the pilot can stop to load, unload, and stage their goods at the curb wherever commercial vehicles can, which is how they're currently operating right now. But oftentimes you'll find that these spaces are all parked up. And so installing cargo bike corrals can help provide a dedicated space to improve and expedite their operations safely, which we'll come back to this point later on. Operators are required to go through a mandatory training session, which goes through the traffic rules and the guidelines of the pilot. And as for enforcement, cargo bikes don't have a license plate, but operators found violating the traffic rules, such as riding the wrong direction, riding on the sidewalk, or failure to stop at a stop sign, are subject to receiving moving violations. If cargo bikes are found left on the street or the sidewalk for a period of time without engaging in delivery operations, NYPD has the right to come in and remove it off of the streets. Also, DOT's Commercial Bicycle Unit also has the power to issue any fines to businesses that don't properly equip their bicycles or their delivery cyclists with proper safety equipment. Cargo bikes are fairly new to New York City, and we want to promote the use of cargo bikes for local deliveries. So as a way for us to learn more about them, it's through this pilot. We require participants to provide data on their operations to get a better understanding to questions such as what neighborhoods they're serving, how many trips they're making, and how long an average trip is. With the shared data and the frequent meetings that we have with participants, this can help DOT better understand how to plan and integrate cargo bikes in the city streetscape. So how can we improve the operations of cargo bikes? By providing a safe space for bikes to access. Cargo bike corrals can be installed through DOT's Bike Corral program, an application-based program to provide increased bike parking capacity at the curb using these bike racks shown in the image below. These bike corrals are installed where there's a high demand of bike parking and where sidewalk space can be limited. So this can help alleviate issues such as bike parking on street signs, fences, and trees to keep the sidewalk clear. So here we're looking at an aerial view of West 124th Street with the curb regulations shown in color-coded blocks, the yellow representing where the truck loading is and the blue representing where the 2-hour metered parking is. So we're looking at is the possibility of installing a cargo bike corral at potentially one of these locations as shown in the black dashed line here. So having dedicated bike parking available with the cargo bike corrals not only moves bikes off of the sidewalk, but since it's conveniently located by a commercial corridor, West 125th Street, and the corrals provide a free, convenient, and short-term parking for all bikes. Whole Foods will be maintaining this space, the cargo bike corrals, to ensure that it will be clear of snow, debris, and will be reporting any derelict bikes. So taking a closer look at this drawing here to show you an example of what a cargo bike corral could potentially look like, the space will be marked out with bike racks, flexible bollards, and markings on the curbside lane. These cargo bike corrals can fit up to 6 bikes on each end, secured on the bike racks, and have space for multiple cargo bikes to fit in the middle. Cargo bikes are not to stick out of the marked out space or block the travel lane, so they can either park parallel or at an angle to the curb depending on the dimensions of the bikes. So next up here is to see if we can explore the potential of installing a cargo bike corral late this year or with continued monitoring and observations. Thank you. We're here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eugenia. So just to kind of wrap up the presentation, I think if we could just turn back to slide 11 to kick off any questions. This slide shows what a typical bike corral looks like and what could be used for the cargo bike corral that's being proposed. I know that Eugenia had mentioned that there are 2 potential sites along the Whole Foods frontage on 124th Street, west of Lenox Avenue, and we're really here to just present the updates on our cargo bike pilot, and hear the board's thoughts on the potential of installing this corral here on 124.
Thank you. I believe we do have a question already. Marcus, you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Cicely. I had a question. If Whole Foods already has a loading dock, then why would we need to install another cargo space for their deliveries?
Yeah, Eugenia, feel free to interrupt me at any point. The loading bay is mostly for incoming goods, which come in via truck. So the larger vehicles deliver the goods to the store and are unpacked and put on the shelves. And then the outgoing deliveries are really what's happening now, especially with COVID, is a lot more people are ordering groceries on the internet. So there's no space for the cargo bikes in the loading bay itself because that's for incoming goods, but we want to make space for the outgoing deliveries, and that's what the cargo bike corral would serve.
Gotcha. And do we know how many parking spaces this would take up? Or another question I had as well is if I'm just a regular bike user, could I park my bike there, or is it just, commercial bikes that can be placed there? And then when I come back, my bike is gone.
Yeah, so both good questions. It depends on what regulation we'd place the cargo bike in. Eugenia, if you thumb ahead 1 slide maybe, or 1 more.
This one?
No, forward, sorry. The one with the blocked out, yeah, this, exactly. So, if it were, we have 2 options here. If it were to go in the loading zone, it would not take any daytime parking spaces. If it were to go in the 2-hour metered parking, it would take approximately 5 metered spaces, which we would seek to replace in other locations, either directly on 124th Street or around the corner somewhere. So it's about 100 feet long, which is, 100 divided by 20 is 5 spaces. Each car takes up about 20 feet of curbside space. And then to your second question about whether you could park there with your personal bike, sure, we welcome shoppers or just people who are visiting friends in the vicinity to park their bikes on the racks. It has the dual purpose of both serving the outgoing cargo bike loading operation and also providing extra bike parking to the community.
I have a
Thank you, Jeremy.
Is this coming out of the DOT's budget, or is this funded by the participating companies like Amazon or maybe Whole Foods or DHL?
Yeah, it's part of both. So they're covering all the maintenance costs, and we are covering the installation costs.
So I have a question. I'm sorry, I can't seem to raise my hand. But we're talking about one business, which is Whole Foods, requesting to take up additional parking spaces. So in our neighborhoods, we have difficulty finding parking. So when you're talking about one store saying that they want to take up parking, 5 spots, just to ease their delivery, that's a bit much for our community. And when you say you'll replace them somewhere else, I'm trying to figure out where would you actually replace them? I mean, that should be part of the presentation as well, because I'm sure you know that question was coming or the statement was coming.
Yeah, totally fair question. The 5 spaces it would take up, if the corral landed in the existing loading zone, we see that as sort of an even trade, in part because what Whole Foods has stated is if they can have a bike corral here, it would allow them to switch their operations from delivery vans to delivery bicycles. And obviously delivery bicycles take up far less space. And as we've observed, the vans are already using that truck loading space and parking throughout the existing truck loading zone. If they could switch from vans to cargo bikes, they take up a lot less space immediately. And that's their goal because cargo bikes are more cost effective, more nimble, more efficient, are less polluting, do not double park, all of those potential advantages. So from what I'm hearing,
get that, Jeremy, but what are you going to do with the fire hydrant on the corner? That specific corner does have a fire hydrant, which should be not blocked at any time. So for DOT to say that we're going to put a bike thing where bikes can park creates even a bigger problem. So my concern is, what are we going to do for the safety of the residents who live in that area that may need to use that fire hydrant? We have to go in the store and say, move your bikes?
So we would place the corral clear of the fire hydrant, giving at least 15 feet of clearance, which is the required amount. If we did decide to place it in location 2 that you see here, which is the one you're referencing, and those spaces, we could theoretically just switch the parking from location 2 to location 1 if we wanted to put the corral in location 2, or we could just put the corral in location 1 within the truck loading zone. But I say this to say that there are options, and we're here to talk them through with you and all that.
Right. Did you guys get any, I'm sorry, one more question. Did you guys get any communication? Like, have you reached out to the residents in that block, to the businesses in that block in regards to replacing, or is it just coming to the community board? Like, have you done any surveys, done any public hearings in regards to this?
We have not. This is the start of the community process. We'd be happy to engage in those types of efforts at the request of the board, whoever you wanted us to talk to. I think the people on that block could have things to say, and we want to hear what they have to say. I think for location 2 and perhaps a potential location or perhaps a potential location along Malcolm X right in front of the Whole Foods store, the most direct constituent is Whole Foods because it would be in front of their store. or in front of the TD Bank in location 2. But we would think, I'd say we'd think twice before putting it in front of someone else's building, and we would certainly want the building owner's opinion if we were to do that.
This is Cheryl, sorry. So I actually, for position number 2 versus position number 1, how many bikes do you anticipate? I see the number of stalls. How many bikes do you potentially anticipate being utilized?
So there would be 6 racks that would be installed. And those can, you could use either side of the rack to lock up. You often see bikes parked to both sides of a rack. But then the space in the middle is available for loading purposes. So lots of bikes could be lined up in the space in the middle. It's really a flex space where you could, where they could put groceries as they're loading them onto bikes and distribute them throughout the community, whoever places the delivery at that moment.
So one of the things, at least just in the discussing this in my own head, when you're speaking to the community on 124th Street, their biggest issue, as the board members know right now, is really the fact that there are a lot of people loitering literally on that corner of 124th Street, but on 124th as well as Malcolm X Boulevard. And I think the only reason I would be potentially partial to 2 is because the busier you make that area, that you'd have less loitering of people just hanging out, buying, selling, smoking cigarettes, doing whatever, but just hanging out after they've gone to a program down the block. So, I mean, that would be one of the benefits I would see in put in something that's an active, something that's extremely active in position 2 versus put in position 1. So,
well, Cheryl, you see that where position 1 is, I believe that's an entrance to one of their treatment programs. And as the individuals that participate in that program get older, they are now arriving and leaving in transportation through car service. So now we create a hazard for those individuals to literally get out of their cabs, blocking up the traffic in the block. I'm just trying to understand why, if Whole Food takes up a large space, the sidewalk is fairly large, that they're talking about putting it on the street as opposed to lining it up outside their store where their windows are.
Right. Well, first off, that's both of you provided great background, great context for what's happening on the neighborhood level here. So thanks for that. As far as the sidewalk versus street question, some have seen it as desirable to take that loading behavior of those bikes off the sidewalk, since sidewalk space is often pretty constrained, and to put it in the street. In a corral that's a regulated space, that's designated space for that particular activity. It can be seen as a more organized use of the space, but certainly the point about location 1 is taken to heart, and location 2 seems like just offhand to be the better option from what I'm hearing.
Jeremy, Shatik, I just wanted to, I know that this was a program that was piloted below 60th Street. And I just want to know, what are some of the results or some of the findings that stuck out that says this is a viable initiative or something that we should consider in other neighborhoods? Because right now, I don't think we have the statistics to show the cost benefits or, the pro con. So could you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Eugenia, do you want to talk about the growth in numbers a little bit?
I don't have those numbers off the top of my head right now. But I just want to say that because of COVID and everything that's been happening throughout this year, a lot of participants weren't able to operate as the level that they wanted to or anticipated the pilot to allow them to operate and do their deliveries. So there were some challenges, but from what they can do and from all the groceries that have been happening, such as FAO Foods, they've been seeing a lot of growth in their customers wanting their groceries being delivered by cargo bikes.
Yeah, and to add to that, you know, I don't have the exact number offhand either, but from what we understand, we launched with 100 cargo bikes in December 2019. We have at least 200 cargo bikes participating in the program now, and we went from 3 participating companies to 5. So that a lot of companies see a lot of potential in cargo bikes just because of how, you know, they're a good way to not get tickets. They're a good way to not you know, experience conflicts with pedestrians or double parking or other types of bad road behaviors, if you will. So we have that aspect of the data, and then we have the GPS data, which we could share some aspects of with you. Like you said, a lot of the activity so far has been focused south of 60th Street, but we don't see a reason why a community like Harlem shouldn't also be able to get their groceries by cargo bike. We think it's a nice environmentally friendly way to deliver groceries, especially with everyone getting grocery deliveries at this time.
And there's a major difference, Jeremy. I'm sorry, Shatik. There's a major difference below 60th Street and Harlem. Many of our buildings are not 25 floors. You're talking about serious high rises below 60th Street. And here in Harlem, we have a typical 5 to 7 floors buildings. And so it's more, as you would say, it's dense, but it's not as dense as it is below 60th Street. So yeah, it's a convenience, but I don't think that because either the store or certain populations that would particularly like to have their groceries delivered means that DOT should take away parking, because I'm a driver and we have limited parking as it is. So that's going to be one of the major pushbacks, that a business came into our neighborhood and now they're taking the parking for cargo bikes so that they can make deliveries.
Want to also say that I think that this is a good idea in terms of the environment, but I think that in the beginning stages there's going to be an overlap where you're not going to be totally dependent on the cargo. There's going to be a point where there's going to be cargo bikes and there still will be trucks and vans. And where that phases out, I don't know how long it phases out, because as long as the cargo bikes are there and the vans are there, that's going to be a lot of congestion. We don't know if that's going to go on for 6 months, a year. So that's the first thing. The second thing, like Barbara was saying, even though we're not as dense building wise, we're very dense people wise on 124th Street. I'm just gonna give me 1 second. I want to share my screen just so everyone can see the corridor at 124th Street. Also, I want you guys to keep in mind that the Studio Museum is doing a construction project that's down this block, and it's going to be going for at least a year. So I don't know where you have planned to put the bike racks on this block, but it's very busy on this corridor. So I just wanted to bring up that point.
Can I just also, so are you promising if you're removing 5 parking spots, that those 5 parking spots would be replaced in the immediate area?
Yeah, we could switch places of those 5 parking spaces with, you know, where the truck loading zone is currently. Or we could place the corral in the truck loading zone. When we talk about parking loss directly, I want to make sure that we're understanding that the truck, you know, placing it in the truck loading zone shouldn't necessarily be thought of as a loss of passenger spaces, right? those spaces were never accessible to vehicles
Right,
anyway.
right.
But it is a switch over from trucks and vans to cargo bikes. And as Shatik was mentioning, that transition, the exact nature of that transition is not perfectly well known. But I know that in other locations, it has happened pretty fast. They have an incentive to switch over fast because it's cheaper and more efficient for them to use cargo bikes. Though right now they're using vans for their deliveries throughout Harlem.
Thank you so much, Shatik, for bringing up the actual visuals, because I think it's important. And I am currently very concerned, as when you speak to all of the local organizations and block associations as it relates to this particular area. The busier we make this, especially right at the corner of 120th and 124th and Malcolm X Boulevard, I think the better it is for moving people along that are just sitting there. So that would be the only reason I would really push for position two, for position two, for just that reason, because it's literally at the corner, and that is the corner where that is one of the corners where we're having huge issues.
So real quick, position two, would that be in this location before you get to the fire hydrant here?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Where this car is at?
Yeah.
Be from like between this light pole.
Yeah, exactly. So those four cars kind of right here.
Mm-hmm.
One of those cars is parked where the hydrant is, but
right.
Yeah, right. So those four cars basically are the footprint of the corral. Before you reach that curb cut, which is the loading dock. Mm-hmm.
And I didn't hear your response to Barbara. Where is it that you would think about putting those 5 parking spots? Because that is a huge issue, issue.
Right. So it's great that we have the street view brought up here. Shatik, if you could turn around. And am I saying your name correctly?
Shatik, yes, sir.
Okay, good. So if you could go a little further down this way, you mentioned that there's construction here, but all of these spaces are currently truck loading zone that you're looking at, and
these are truck loading zone.
Not on the left, but on the right.
Right.
The right it is.
Which is why you see that they're not really occupied by cars. We don't think the truck loading zone needs to be that large, especially if we can convert some of the van traffic to cargo bikes. So we would add it back in this location.
Okay. So would you be adding more than the 5 spots in that location if that's the case?
I guess I'd wait to see how the operations played out, but that I wouldn't rule that out.
So if you could get more spaces, that might make it worth it. Because 125th, if anybody's tried to, and I suggest you talk to that block association, 124th, but also 125th about the parking and the congestion as well. The bid association is a good resource. Mm-hmm. Because I was talking to them earlier about, what we've seen with parking is because the vendors take so much of the parking. A lot of folks that want to do business there on 125th, they can't, right, Barbara? So then they're driving around, they're circling around 124th, 123rd, going into the residential areas to park, which means our residents can't park for folks that want to do commercial business. So it causes a big issue. So that would be a good association. I think
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you. I hear that, this is going to just be temporary, right?
No.
This is going to be permanent? Okay.
Right.
Because I thought you...
Insofar as those materials aren't quite concrete, right? So it's temporary in a sense. It could be removed, but not temporary as in there's a planned expiration date for what we'd propose.
Okay, and if it's removed, is it going to be removed to another area here in Harlem? That was my question and concern.
Yeah, I guess we'd have to play that by ear. If it was causing a real issue that we all acknowledged and we got consistent complaints, then I'm not quite sure, but I think we could remove it entirely without placing it somewhere else.
Jeremy, we're going into the winter months. So how realistic is it that they're going to be making deliveries on a bicycle?
That's
we
a good
have rough
question.
winters. We have a rough winter coming. So
yeah. Oh, that's bad news. Why'd you have to break it to me here?
Look at the almanac. We have a rough winter coming.
So our prior experience is that these operators actually continue through the winter, and that the bike lanes, insofar as they're cleared, are still the best place and the safest place for them to be for getting these deliveries out and getting them out fast. So I applaud the bravery of some of these individuals. I couldn't be one of them, but yeah, I hope I answered your question there.
Real quick, Jeremy.
And Jeremy, sorry, just to add to that question, Whole Foods has agreed to also shovel the space. Is that right, Jeremy? So it will be accessible even during those times. So, you know, we've created a space that could be used all year round, ideally.
Jeremy, where would the bikes be stored, or would they remain on the street?
So we don't allow overnight bike storage as part of the pilot. They can only be within the corral space as long as they're loading, unloading, or staging. So they have to disappear somewhere into the store, basically, for overnight purposes.
So the bikes themselves are not owned by the individual delivery person; they'd be owned by the company.
That's good nuance. In some cases, with some delivery providers, the cargo bikes are biked to the site, and then trailers are attached for the cargo that then holds the groceries. So either the bikes themselves are brought to the site, or a few of them are kept in say the basement or something like that.
But either way, they wouldn't be on the street overnight.
Absolutely correct.
Thank you, Jeremy, Sherry, and Jennifer. I know we're going to wrap this conversation up because we do have another quick presentation on historic districts, but I wanted to ask what are the next steps and what do you need from us? Is this a letter of support? Do you want us to hold a conversation in the community, or what do you need from us next? And what's the timeline?
Oh, Jennifer, did you want to handle part of that question?
Sure, yes, I wasn't able to unmute myself in time. But Cicely, just to speak to, next steps, we're looking for a resolution, a letter of support if the board, is supportive of one of these two locations. If there's additional outreach of, the block stakeholders that you're looking us to reach out to, that would also be helpful to get that list so we can start reaching out to folks now. And Jeremy can speak to potential installation timelines as, we would be looking to try to get this on the ground at one of the two locations so that before the winter months kind of really hit us hard.
Right, and Sherry, you and I can talk about this offline, I suppose, but we may not have the resources to install this before the end of the year, but it's still in our plans if you are all in support. So, we'd do everything to give you what you asked for, basically. In as short as time frame as possible.
Jeremy, one question. Can you guesstimate how many of these storage bikes would be there?
I would say it varies. So, as some are being dispatched, some are coming back. In like a rotating blob of say 25 bikes. I could estimate if you visited the corral at any one time.
And when would you need us to give you a resolution from the full board? So this is the first time we're hearing about it. I don't know. And we've got a couple of asks for you guys to do some community outreach. I don't believe that right now we are prepared to vote. We would like to hear some more from the community on this. So when do you need this from us?
So it sounds like we still need to confirm, you know, the availability of equipment. But Cicely, I can circle back to you in the next week or so to kind of figure out if that's, you know, December or November or even later than that.
I can kind of tell you, and board members, you can back me up or disagree. I mean, we probably would look to give you the list of stakeholders so you can start doing that outreach. Come back to us in November with that report. Let's take it to the December meeting and we'll vote on it there, and we can have a resolution for you by December from a full board perspective. But that's what I would see. That could be that's our earliest time frame. I mean, because I think we would want to hear from our community, and we want to put this out just in case we get some feedback so we can give it to you and vice versa. Because I don't want another situation where all the parking spaces disappear and then people are upset and then they see these bikes and then it's a whole thing. So we want to be able to get this out to as many people as we can, especially 125th Street bid, 124th Street, Cheryl, Barbara, any other entities y'all are thinking of.
Well, just the businesses on the block that, like I said, a lot of the people attending those programs are arriving, accessorized, you know.
Right.
Even though it's a no parking lane, they use those spaces to wait for them to receive services and leave.
Yeah, they shouldn't. But
They shouldn't be, isn't it? But I think the bigger thing is the block association on 124th, which has become significantly more mobilized because of the issue around substance use and diversion on the corner there. That's going to be a big one in terms of talking to them. And Barbara, also, I do think that majority of people that enter those programs aren't coming in via Access-a-Ride. They're really coming in via the bus or the train. But I think that block is the block association, I think, is the biggie. That block association, the block association between 5th and Malcolm X Boulevard.
all right, so we'll definitely send those names to you and those businesses so you can do those outreach, especially if you could reach out to those as part of the 124th Street Block Association, but making sure that we touch base with those mental health clinics to make sure that they are aware of that increased traffic that'll be there and the amount of folks that will be taking packages in and out. We want everyone to be safe in that area with everything that's going on.
It would also help that you give us some information on the previous pilot program and how it actually, you know, bring us some numbers, how it's working, any accidents, any, you know, people getting hurt by these freight carriers. So, you know, just bring us some information, because your pilot was to generate whether or not it's good enough to put it anyplace else. So please provide us with some information from that as well.
Of course. So we'll regroup the DOT team, and then Cicely will circle back, you know, and finalize, you know, presentation dates or, you know, follow-up dates for November. And any other stakeholders that you'd like us to reach out to, please, you know, let us know. We'll try our best.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer, team. I don't know Freight Mobility. I don't see your name, but thank you. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
for having
all.
us.
Talk soon. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on really quickly.
Excuse me, Cicely, I had a question.
Oh, hi,
Cicely, I had my
Karen.
hand raised.
I didn't see it.
Oh, is she?
No,
That's the
Sherry's
last?
still on, and
I'm here.
And Jennifer's.
Yes, yes, I just wanted to say that you know, the outreach I think is extremely important. I agree with all of that, and I'd just like to find out to ask what the timeline would be in terms of outreach.
Timeline in terms of outreach?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think once we receive the list from the board, they can send that over to the Manhattan office, and then Jeremy and Eugenia will start right away. We're doing a similar exercise with another community board in Lower Manhattan. We had the meeting last week and we've already reached out to all the necessary parties. Obviously still waiting to hear some feedback, but in terms of our outreach, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. We're used to doing this and we can roll it out pretty quickly. I mean, ideally, we want to come back to you as soon as possible because as we had mentioned, it's difficult for us to implement this type of work in the winter. And so if we could potentially squeeze it in, also depending on weather, if we have 60-degree weather, days in the winter, then we can get this in this winter. If not, unfortunately, it's gonna have to wait till the springtime when the weather warms up. So we're gonna try and move as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Jennifer, for hanging in there, coming back on.
Thanks.
Thanks. We're going to have our next presentation. So I sent you all, the committee, the letter, and I apologize for getting that out to you later. I thought I sent it earlier, for landmarks. The Landmark Preservation Committee talked to us in September, and us, I mean Keith Taylor and I. Keith Taylor is our vice chair of Transportation Landmarks. Keith, are you on? I know you were having some issues talking. I see your phone number. That's the phone number. The 646-632 number is actually Keith Taylor. If he could come on and talk, but there is an initiative right now. If you all can look at the letter. Shatik, do you have that letter? And you can maybe share your screen.
The one from Landmarks?
Yes. And it actually talks about the historic district. Let me see. And I thought Keith would be great to talk about it because he has been through the process so many times with the outdoor district. So thank you. There's the letter for everyone who it's not on the committee, but the study is of the area. I think it's on there because I want to be sure. The study area consists of 2 sections on either side of Frederick Douglass Boulevard between 136th Street and West 140th Street. And this is the property area that they're talking about. So this is the letter that actually went out to the neighborhood, to the homeowners there, to invite them to this conversation that's supposed to take place October 21st. I think Keith is trying to talk. Very going to take a look at that.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you, Keith. Great.
Okay. I've been trying to talk last couple of minutes. I had to start 6. I want to say hello to everybody. As you all know, I've been on deployment since the beginning of March. I'm upstate with the Guard, and I anticipate I'll be there at least until the end of the year, possibly going into next year, related to Operation COVID-19. And so I just wanted to state, Cicely, just to piggyback what you were talking about. This will be very brief. A quick history. 10 years ago, after the 125th Street rezoning, there was an effort and concern by community members, by the board, to look at landmarking to preserve the historic and cultural aspects of Central Harlem proper. As we all know, the landmarking in communities of color is a lot less than other communities. And so as a result of that effort, through meetings with Landmark Preservation Commission, the Historic Districts Council, Landmarks Conservancy, in 2011, the board produced the Historic Preservation Plan. And in this plan, it identified 9 areas, study areas, that the board considered through consultation with historic preservationists, community members, and other entities, that those 9 areas were worthy of preservation. And over the years, the landmarks designation has been given to a number of them. I believe 3 of them. And we are now looking at an additional 2 being considered for designation. That being the Strivers Row Extension South, which is 136th Street and 137th Street from 7th to 8th, Adam Clayton Powell to Frederick Douglass Boulevard, and the Dorrance Brooks Historic District, which is 140th to 136th from St. Nicholas to Frederick Douglass Boulevard. The 2 areas would be combined into one Dorrance Brook Historic City Landmark Historic District, and would consist of approximately 260 buildings and residences. At this point, the Landmarks Preservation Commission is just at the outreach stage, just at the very beginning. They completed their survey of the area, and so they have deemed these blocks worthy of historic preservation. So the outreach is next. That's to the homeowners. They'll be having upcoming meetings for the homeowners at the end of the month. From there, it gets hopefully calendared, and then there'll be a hearing, public hearing, and then they'll vote to designate. And from then it'll go, as you know, to city planning, city council for final approval. So it's an exciting time. If this area is, if this historic district is landmark, it will be the first time in the history of the city that a historic district has been named after an African American. Dorrance Brooks was a World War I hero, Harlem Hellfighter, died in the process. The first park was named, first New York City park named for African American was named after Dorrance Brooks, Private First Class Dorrance Brooks, at the square here on 135th and St. Nicholas, the entrance to the northbound B and C line. That little square is the first park in 1925 named for an African American. So it's ironic, you know, nearly 100 years later, that this area will now become a city landmark historic district, again named after Private First Class Dorrance Brooks. So this has been a labor of love for many people over the course of the past 10 years. And it is, like I said, an exciting time to finally see the recognition being given that is due. So that is my brief presentation. Chair, whatever you'd like me to do, if you want me to answer questions or if that's sufficient.
That would be great, Keith, if you could answer any questions that come up. Does anyone have any questions about this? Yes, Karen, that's correct. Congratulations, Keith. You definitely, I know you mentioned that people have been putting a labor of love in there. That would be you. You would be one of those people.
but it's all of us. It's a victory for all of us. We all worked hard and we all contribute in our way. I'm just one small part of the whole process. I'm really, really happy for the people of Harlem because it's a win for them. It's a win for them. And it means that when people come, this is the 100th anniversary, as we all know, of the Harlem Renaissance. When people come to Harlem, they will still be able to see the Harlem that was famous for the African Americans who developed the Harlem Renaissance. All that will still be, well, I mean, in these areas will still be preserved for future generations. So it has great significance. And I was skeptical, frankly, because of developmental pressures, which were becoming more and more, apparent. And so the developers don't see, historic brownstones or buildings necessarily as properties. They see it as land to develop. And so that's it's really a hard fight because developmental pressures can be pretty significant, as we all well know and have lived through with our experiences on this board. But I digress. I'm not sure if I answered any questions. I think I was just excitedly talking about this.
This is Cheryl. So Keith, I think it's amazing as the fact that I'm in a historic district as well in terms of Mount Morris. I am very excited that we're expanding our historic districts and protecting more and more of the properties and areas that need to be protected. I know that one of the things that Dr. Samuel always talks about, in addition to the libraries, is the fact that, you know, we haven't protected some institutions as it relates to some buildings in the past, that if they were landmarked, that we wouldn't be, you know, we'd have different results in terms of what's in them. So I think it's great. So congratulations on the hard work.
Well, but again, Cheryl, it's a congratulations to Community Board 10, because Landmarks Preservation Commission based their decisions and what they did off of what we created as a board 10 years ago.
No, I do remember, and I can't remember her name at the time, who was in charge of the landmarks.
Betty Duvesson.
Yeah,
Betty Duvesson, who, when she presented that overall plan for multiple areas. So yes.
Yeah. So for 9, so this would be numbers 4 and 5 out of the 9 to be made into historic districts based off of Community Board 10's plan. So so it's a, you know, they have to go through a process. I'm not sure exactly how long it'll take. There's a lot of variables, particularly not operation, but just the whole pandemic issue may slow things down, or maybe it'll speed things up. I don't know, but you know, I'm a patient person, and I will definitely see this through.
I'd like to thank you, Keith. Really quickly, I want to read some of the chat so you'll just know how much these board members are appreciating you. Barbara says, Keith, as always, your due diligence is always so worthy. Donna Gill says, Keith, great work. Thank you for your diligence and hard work. I know Donna has a question, and then we'll move to our guest, Karen, for comment. Donna, did you want to say something?
Yeah, my question is the naming, because Strivers Row has some historical significance in our district. So to rename that portion, not taking anything away from you, Keith, or anything away from Dorian Brooks, you know, the African American gentleman, but I find that there might be some pushback because the people that live in Strivers Row are very partial to that particular name. So I was just wondering about that.
Yep, I can very quickly answer that. They have nothing to worry about. Their name is not changing. And I should have been clear, because I'm thinking you see the letter, but you don't have the map. The map is important. Strivers Row Extension South that's not currently named anything. So it's not going to be changing their name. It'll just, and I'm guessing, I can only guess because I don't know, but I'm guessing maybe administratively it's easier to just name it in one district, or to have it as one district as opposed to 2. They did mention that they had another non-contiguous historic district in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. So I'm guessing that, you know, for them, it makes sense to just combine the 2, since Frederick Douglass is the only thing that splits them up. The two areas that we had proposed. But no, we're not changing any name.
I misunderstood.
No,
thank you. And I think that you also when you do the outreach, that clarity needs to be told to the people that actually live in that area, because I was confused with your explanation.
So when the letters were given out, the maps were also given out to the homeowners. The maps were also given, and it shows like the red 2 proposed historic districts. One is south of Strivers Row, south of that historic district. That's the one that I mentioned is the extension, and that we called it an extension from CB10 in our historic preservation study. And then there's the Dorrance Brooks, currently historic district. So the Strivers Row extension is 136 and 137th from 7th and 8th. That currently is not a historic district. It's not named anything. So, but it's contiguous with, it's just south of the current Strivers Row. So it'll, in effect, make that whole area from St. Nicholas and 139th to 136th and 7th Avenue. That'll all be protected under landmarks with two names, the existing Strivers Row and then the new Dorrance Brooks Historic District, which will surround Strivers Row. Is that helpful?
Yes, that was very helpful. Thank you.
That is wonderful news. Well, as I said earlier in the meeting, while we are still here, it was just approved for a grant to install 25 historic markers throughout Harlem. And essentially what we're looking for is the support of the community board and of course,
I can't hear.
Karen, you're breaking up.
Oh,
Karen
shucks.
Taylor, we can't hear you.
Okay, how about now? Should I speak a little louder? Is this better?
Yes, this is better.
Okay, so what I was saying was, while we are still here, we're a heritage preservation organization and we were founded in 2015 to kind of codify the history of 409 and 555 Edgecombe Avenue. But since that time, we've kind of expanded our purview to, you know, more of Harlem in general. And to that end, we were just approved for a grant to install 25 historic markers throughout Harlem over 2 years. And the first year we would install 13, second year we would install 12, and you know, in Harlem. And there were also many other extraordinary years as well that we would hope to cover through, you know, the markers, historic markers. For instance, Romare Bearden's studio was right on 125th Street, over near where the party store is, near Capital One. As many of you know, Romare Bearden was an extraordinarily gifted artist, and he's gone down in the history of one of the world's most extraordinary artists. Then we have the Baby Grand Bar, which was on 125th Street as well. And we even included things like the National Memorial African Bookstore that was owned by Mr. Michaud on 125th Street. And that was a very important bookstore. I think it had 200,000 titles, all focused on Black history throughout the African diaspora. We've also included the Lenox Lounge, the Langford Youth Residence on 127th Street, and Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association. So I just wanted to share with the community board that, you know, we've gotten this funding and we are so extraordinarily happy that Harlem will be viewed as a really important, influential site, including the Harlem Renaissance and outside of the Harlem Renaissance area.
Thank you, Karen. So I know maybe we can follow up with you for our next meeting, and so you can do a presentation so we can hear more about what you're doing for our next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Karen. And then maybe you'd want to connect with our Vice Chair, Keith Taylor, so you can talk with him about your landmarking efforts and if there's anything that, I don't know how we could help you or just get more information. Keith, did you hear Karen's announcement? Karen Taylor is one of our community members.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That is wonderful. And yeah, I'd definitely like to talk with her about her successful efforts.
Yeah.
Because we want to replicate that. There's a lot to mark.
There's so much to mark. We've got a list of around 68 sites already, but you know, that's kind of unmanageable at this point. So we're starting with 25. And
Where did you get the funds from?
from the Pomeroy Foundation. The Pomeroy Foundation. And we were referred to that organization through Brent, who is the executive director. This is a long time. The National Trust for Historic Preservation of African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund. He actually referred us for this funding. And we submitted an application, and lo and behold, they said, this is wonderful. Because I think people have the wrong idea of what Harlem is historically and has been historically. So, you know, it's really important for us to change that.
Thank you, Karen. Marcus, I see your hand is up. Did you want to say something?
Yes, I think this is a great idea. One of my concerns, I think it was in the summer when we had a meeting with the Block Association from 135th, and they had issues with markers. So I just wanted to know, like, who would be responsible for the upkeep of the markers after they're placed?
It would be the City of New York Department of Transportation, because part of what we have to pay for is a $10,000 bond for maintenance in perpetuity. We talked to the Department of Transportation, Nicholas Pettinati, and there were probably 11 people on that call. And essentially, that's one of the things that we would be required to provide. You know, to the city, we have to pay a $10,000 bond to New York City.
Got it. So from what I'm understanding, the city or the Department of Transportation is going to be responsible for it.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that was great clarification. I think we still might need to hear more about that. So we'll put that on the agenda for next time. Keith, I know that we have, as a board, voted on the historic district plan that we have, but is this initiative from Landmarks Preservation Committee outside of that, or would the vote that we took to support then be the same as if we were to take another vote to support now? I'm asking, do we have to vote on this measure?
No, it's the same. It's the same. They're basically saying, we liked what you proposed, what you as a community board proposed, this historic district, and we're acting on it.
Okay, so it's nothing
That's
outside of
all
what
they're
we
doing. Nothing new, right? Nothing outside of what we suggested.
Okay.
Which is a beautiful thing.
Okay, great. And in that letter, it's an October 21st meeting. I know Keith and I said it's virtual, so Keith and I said that we would attend. Board members, especially if you would like to attend and get more information so that we're all aware of everything that comes out of that meeting, including community concerns, because Keith and I will continue to raise those to LPC so that we can make sure the community is heard on the issue. But Keith will be there spreading his expertise and easing fears. Keith, you're still able to attend?
Yeah, I cleared it with my higher up, so I'll be there virtually.
Yes, yes. So any of the board members that would like to attend, you're welcome to. Keith will be, I'm not going to put him on the spot that he has to do a presentation, but I definitely want him to share his experiences with those homeowners to ease any type of discomfort they might have with the initiative.
And if I may, you know that I've been the president of one of the local block associations. It's named Dorrance Brook Block Association. And on that, I've videotaped a lot of the lectures and efforts, walking tours, and so on that we've done over the years. And it's the easiest way to contact me if you're a member of the public, because I don't really have like business cards about it, but it's just DorranceBrooksPORA.org, which is Property Owners and Residents Association. So DawrenceBrooksPORA.org. And it talks more, not specific, well, I include the larger preservation plan, but it speaks about the journey of Dorrance Brooks from just a neighborhood to a state and federal and now hopefully soon city historic district. So it's something I hope will be helpful with the other areas that we've identified to get them to the point where they're able to be considered for designation as well. And so I'm nervously optimistic. There are so many things that can happen, you know, with the election and the pandemic and economic issues, but I am hopeful. I'm hopeful that we will be able to progress and become stronger and better for it.
Thank you, Keith. That's right. Thank you so much. So with that, if there's not any other questions on that, we can move to old business if there is any. Does anyone have any additional questions on this LPC initiative? Okay, we'll move on to old business. Is there any? So really quickly, it's old business, it's district needs. But I wanted to send an email out, and I'll do that. We've been talking about district needs calls with Josh just very quickly on Sundays. Barbara, thank you so much for being our rep on that. Barbara Nelson's our rep. But some of the things would be addressed, and if the Transportation Committee or Landmarks Committee has any additional things, let me know. But some of the things we addressed is notice. So when there are issues with transportation, we don't get proper notice of things. So we are asking the MTA to do their due diligence to keep us in the loop of any type of outages, any type of plans they may have for construction, because we get it a week ahead of time and we're not able to talk about it. Secondly, we're talking about accessibility. So I know you guys remember when the 2-3 train, the BC train was shut down on 110 just for cosmetics, that we were also talking about accessibility. So we need proper escalators, we need elevators working all throughout Harlem. And where there are no elevators and no escalators, what can be done with that money for beautification to put those things in and make them a reality? So those are the type of things that we were talking about. We do have we have a viable community full of seniors and folks that may be disabled in some way that could really utilize these things and have not been able to due to just the lack thereof. And when there are elevators and escalators there, they're not working. So especially our elevators. So those are the things that we talked about in our district needs statement. I know Karen was on that call. I don't know, Barbara, I know you might've been on there for a second. So, or was there anything else that we need to raise? And if anybody has anything else, just email me or Barbara, and we will raise it up to Josh with the district needs statement.
In addition to that, Cicely, from talking with Josh, trying to devise some sort of survey because we'd like to get the information out to not just the board members, but we're asking the board members to let other people in our communities know that this district needs, we need to know from them exactly what it is that they would like, not just so much what we as representatives of the community know that we need. So he's doing a survey. It's a Google document that should be sent out to all the board members for their participation as well.
So yes, thank you, Barbara, for reminding us. So that was sent out already. So you guys should have filled it out. If you didn't, please take time to do that. Also, we did try to send it out to the community in our e-blast. And there is even a QR code. So if you can't actually access the survey, there's a QR code and you can just take a picture of that and the survey will download to your phone. But if anyone on this call needs that survey, please let me know. Shatik also has the survey as well, and we can send it to you.
Yep, it's also on our social media and our links. So if you go on the link for Instagram, for instance, you can just go into the bio section and it'll pop right up.
Okay. Is there anything else? And definitely, if you can't think of things here, we have another week or so to work on this. We'll have another meeting on Sunday. Our deadline for our internal deadline, I think, is next week, and then our deadline officially is October 31st. Is that correct, Shatik?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Barbara and Shatik. Is there anything else? Karen, are you saying something?
No. Oh,
Karen, were you, oh, I'm sorry, Karen Ori, were you saying something?
yes, I just wanted to ask, are we still on district needs?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'll wait.
Oh, okay. Is there anything else on district needs? Okay, now Karen, go ahead.
I just wanted to know, how was the situation with City Bites and Esplanade Gardens resolved?
Shatik, I think the rack is still there. Shatik, did you hear anything else from the tenant association?
No, I didn't actually. I haven't heard anything from DOT or the tenant association. Last that we left off, the DOT said that they were taking into consideration some of our recommendations, but haven't heard anything from tenants association as of yet.
Okay.
So usually
we'll follow
I guess
up.
if you don't, yeah, from my experience, if you don't hear anything, I guess that's a good thing, because when it's going really bad, they definitely call and email. So
yeah.
Well, Shatik, if they reach out again, and Karen, I wanted to mention that to you as well, the station that they have over by A. Philip Randolph Park is always empty with bikes, and it's in a pretty good location. They may even think about extending or putting more bikes there, because it's hard to get a bike because they're all gone.
what park did you say?
Over Jackie Robinson.
Oh.
It's between 140, really 148th, 147th, but closer to 148th on the park side. So if they decided they wanted to put more, that would be a perfect park to put it in, because a lot more people are frequenting the park.
It's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments, questions on old business? Okay. New business, is there anything? New business? Announcements? Any announcements at all?
You know what, actually, it's not necessarily transportation announcement, and I think I made an announcement at the board meeting. Maybe I didn't. We're having a discussion on Thursday. It was supposed to be tonight, but it was going to rain. On Thursday, about community priorities in this here in this election cycle. Marquise knows, because he's going to bring some of his students. So we're trying to get young people, but we want all people to come out on Thursday, this Thursday at 6:30. We're also going to be showing the episode that was on Blackish recently around the elections, and about how the electoral process works. So if you haven't seen it, come out and view it. We're social distance and masked on Thursday at 6:30.
And where is it exactly, Cheryl?
So, sorry, that's true. It's on 120th Street between Marcus Garvey Park and Malcolm X Boulevard.
Okay.
So it's really a discussion forum specifically for us to discuss our priorities around this election cycle.
And it starts at 6?
6:30. 6:30.
Okay. Okay. Is there a flyer that you want us to put out?
I'll send you something.
Okay,
Yes.
please. Thank you. That's a really great idea. And it just fits into all the wonderful programming you have done on your street. So when I was over there and took part of the programming, it was great. So thank you for that.
Can I just ask one quick question? Are we doing a walkthrough? I understand that because it gets back to what I was saying previously about 124th Street. there was something in one of the local newspapers about the elected officials doing a walkthrough of this area because of the substance use that's occurring. Are we part of that?
So there had been talk about that on one of the meetings I have been on. And so Shatika, have you heard any definite date from that? But
No.
no, I hadn't heard any definite dates yet, but if we do that, we'll let the board know that it's happening at least.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else? Any other announcements? No. Okay. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned at 8:40. Thank you so much for this great meeting, and I will talk to you all soon.
Bye,
Have a
guys.
good night, guys.
Everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.